Hello, this is RICKY, the Android guy. Alright guys, so I've been getting a lot of questions on three phones that have just released recently, and I'm going to give my opinions on them. And remember, these are my opinions, so this is an Android cast, and take them as you want. We're going to do three different segments. One is first on the LG Optimus G. So, now, this is a pretty good phone, and let me talk to you about specs on it first. In terms of specs, it has the new Qualcomm S4 Pro quad-core processor, which is a really good processor. It has a 13 megapixel camera, and it has 2 gigs of RAM built into it, as well as 32 gigs of storage, plus a 1.3 megapixel on the front. And the battery on it, I forget what it is. Oh, and the resolution is 1280 by 768, and I'm trying to remember what the battery was in on it. It's 2100 milliamp. Okay, so here's the thing. Would I get this device? I would not. And here's why. These are devices that, so all three of these are devices that I would personally not get. I'm going to explain why. So for one thing, I've seen it, I played around with it, and although it is snappy at some things, it's not at others. And that's just one thing I kind of noticed. It kind of slows down at certain aspects. And this is what I think of the Optimus G. I think it's a good start for LG, and I think it shows a lot of promise. LG has been out of the smartphone game for a long time and just basically only done lower end phones. The problem, first of all, from a marketing standpoint, is that they named it an Optimus. Optimus is now synonymous with cheap phones from LG. And that's what's kind of like that they should have done that. They should have named it something different. I've definitely even gone to stores where, first of all, no one knows this phone came out, even though it's a really top spec phone. And it's because it's just another Optimus. It's just another Optimus from LG. And that's one thing that I think they were idiots to do in the first place. That they shouldn't have done. They should have never named it Optimus. They named it something differently. Now I know Optimus has been a long time standing thing, but they could have done something to basically change it. Think of a new name. But Optimus, sorry, it will always be stuck with lower end phones. So LG should have changed the name, first of all. Second of all, one of the reasons is after being spoiled with Samsung LEDs for so long, I do not like LCD technology. That's just my opinion. Again, these are all my opinions. So I don't like it. It's just not as bright. It's not as vibrant, and the colors aren't as nice. Now, going back to that's just one thing, just for personal preference. And LED does give you a longer battery life, and that's one of the other things about LG. LG is blatantly trying to copy TouchWiz, and we can see that. It's very simple. The icons are more similar to TouchWiz than other icons, and they're very similar to TouchWiz, and which is understandable, honestly, just because since Samsung has done it right better than anyone else right now, it's understandable why they're trying to copy them. Now, another thing I do not care for is the battery life, though. So one thing that LG still needs to work on is their battery management. Now, the processor does some of the work for them because that processor is really good at maximize battery life, their processor aspect. However, their software is poor at doing it. And I noticed this, how I test it out, by the way, and you guys feel free to do the same thing. I go to the stores and I unplug their charger, and I see how quickly it takes to drain down after, doing some video, doing some photos, surfing the web for a little bit, and I see how much percentage went down in about 10 minutes or so. With the LG Optimus, I saw roughly about 6% go down in the span of about 10 minutes after doing things. That's insane. Like where my S3 or definitely my Note 2 wouldn't even drop like maybe a percent, maybe 2 at most, and that's, doing a lot of the high powered stuff. And so for it just to go down that quickly was just, I thought it was insane. I was like way, way wrong. So definitely one thing I just do not like about it is battery life. And that's a big thing to me. I think that if a phone doesn't have a good battery life, that it will not be good overall. And now keep in mind, this was in a store that actually had the LTE going, as opposed to the 3G. So if you are not experiencing this, and you have the Optimus G and you have a 3G phone, well, sorry guys, when you get LTE in that area, then you guys will expect it to be dropping that quickly. So I don't think that they're good at battery management. I think the UI is pretty tweaked. It still needs a bit more. I hate the video thing, the video at the top going into the background and transparency. I really don't like that. I think Samsung did a lot better job with pop-up play. That you can actually move it around and everything like that. The fact that it can only be at the top, I think, is really takes away from it, and the fact that it can't be resized either. Again, I think just takes away from it. So that's just again, this is just my opinion, and then I end on the 13 megapixel camera. The 13 megapixel has a huge problem with it, and that is that if you can see in most tests, it has not been on par with other cameras, simply for the fact that this is what happens, and this is camera technology. And I used to be a photographer, so this is what happens that LG did not account for. The these sensors are not their image sensor is not good enough. And what I mean by that is they have a 13 megapixel camera, but then that's the image sensor. Then their processing chip. Cameras have a processor. That's the simple way of putting it. There's a lot more in depth to it, but basically, what a processor is supposed to do with the image sensor is basically supposed to take any photo, and the better the processing chip, the better the low light will take care. It's a lot more to it than that, but so basically, just simple terms, the more megapixels is the better the chip has to be, so that it doesn't create what's called noise, which is fuzziness. Noise is called white dots. That's a specific term for it. But basically, it's fuzziness in images, and LG gets a lot of that. So it's really not that good in low light. And so, although a 13 megapixel camera sounds appealing, it's like, oh, it's a 13 megapixel camera when everyone else is 8. It's actually not as appealing. And that was a real bummer. I thought, Qualcomm was very strategic in that they gave their chip to LG and to HTC before giving it to Samsung. I thought that was interesting, simply because, at the same time, Qualcomm is the thing that's powering the S3, so they made a name for themselves with the S3, and now I think they're kind of like trying to exploit that and try with other brands. The thing is without, Samsung software to purely optimize for the S4 processor, we're not getting as good of overall enjoyment. Not benchmarks. Of course, you're going to get better benchmarks, but overall enjoyment is just not as, I would say, not as good. Personally, if I were on Sprint, I would lean more towards the S3 if you want a smaller phone, but I would definitely, as I've said in a video before, go for the Note 2. Check out the comparison on the S3 versus the Note 2 to see why I would go for that one. But yes, that is my stance. Again, this is just my opinion. You guys might have your own opinion. You guys might love the quality of it. Oh, I don't like I don't like that whole glass thing either on the back. I feel like it's going to crack too easily too. I feel it's going to be like another iPhone that you break too easily. Again, this is my opinion though. I've never liked glass on the back. I've never liked glass all around and everything like that. It's not my thing. I don't think of that as luxury. I think of it as cheap because it's going to be breaking easier. So that's just my opinion on why I do not like the LG Optimus G. I will be trying to get one. I have one friend that did buy it, so I'm going to try to get one to compare it to the S3 and the Note 2 for you guys on Android 1.0. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully we'll be able to compare them and see how they go against each other. Alright guys, if you have any other questions, this has been RICKY, the Android.